Hey guys, what's up? It's Klexx here. Hope you're all really enjoying Mr. Pandaria and you're liking your new class changes. I know I certainly am, and grats on level 90 if you've got it already. So the game's been out just under a week now and people are starting to hit max level. And obviously people are starting to choose their level 90 talent and kind of play around with them a bit. So I decided to do some tests into the Elemental Shaman level 90 talents, seeing as they are quite a hard choice to pick from. There's not a kind of standout amazing one over the rest. So I figured I'd make this video to try and help some people out in deciding which talent they wanted to go for. So hopefully it helps and you can choose the talent to suit your playstyle perfectly. So yeah, once again I hope this helps, and if you like this kind of shaman stuff then be sure to check out my personal channel, link is in the description, annotation will be at the end. So yeah, thanks very much for watching and see you later. So first things first, I just wanted to say that all these tests are done against the same character in the same gear to try and make them as fair as possible. As you can see here, he's got some contenders PvP gear, but some greens and some heroic pieces as well. And this is the generic level of gear that everyone has at this point in the game, because unless you've got gold you haven't really bought the PvP gear, and you know, everyone's just leveled and doing heroics and stuff. So yeah, I did it all against the same player just to make sure there was no confusion over PvP power or resilience. And as you can see here, I'm also in contenders gear with a few heroic pieces and I think 1 or 2 greens, so it's all really fair. So the first talent I chose to test was Elemental Blast. Now the tooltip states that you harness the direct raw power of the elements towards the enemy, dealing 36,000 damage and increasing the caster's critical strike, haste or mastery by 3,500 for 8 seconds. So we'll start off with the damage, and as you can see I just did a 50k crit with no cooldowns up, which is pretty decent I'd say. I've actually seen Elemental Blast crit over 100k when I have the Berserker buff and on a low resilience target, which is pretty impressive. It definitely can hit harder than Lava Burst. I'm assuming when we get an on-use spell power trinket and we get proper gear it can hit really hard, which is good. However, it doesn't really crit that often, so I wouldn't really rely on it for a huge damage dealer, seeing as it could just not crit and you'd have to wait another 12 seconds before you can use it again. I think the main attraction to this talent would be the stat increase. You can also use it with NS, so you can get an instant cast. However, I wouldn't really recommend it, seeing as NS is on a 1-minute cooldown and there are much more important things you could use it for. So here we can see the percentage increases when I actually get the stat bonuses. So as you can see here, my crit went from around 13% to around 19%, which is about a 6% increase, which when you think about it is quite a lot, because getting a 6% increase from just pure stats alone, such as intellect or in fact gem and crit, would take you a fair few gems. It increases my haste from 12.7 to 21.7, which is a 9% increase, which is quite a lot of haste as well. So the stat increases seem to be going pretty well. And then when it comes to mastery, it increases from 39% to 50%, which is an 11% increase, which is pretty substantial to be honest. So mastery is probably the dominant one, but the really annoying thing is it's completely random which one you get. You could get haste 3 times in a row, you could get crit 5 times in a row, you could get you could get crit, haste, mastery, haste, crit. Like, it's completely random. So that's a kind of downside, you don't know what you're going to get, but I guess you can live with it. So the next talent is Primal Elementalist, which basically makes your fire elemental 50% more powerful, and you can control it, so you can choose who it attacks, which is awesome. I'm so glad they implemented this. It also gives you some new abilities, which are Fire Blast, Fire Nova, Immolate and Empower. Now obviously the most eye-catching one is Empower, because it gives you a buff which increases your damage dealt by 5%, which can be used in conjunction with, say, Ascendance to give you that extra burst or heroism or whatever. So it's a 5% damage increase, which can be really helpful. So as you can see, the elemental pretty much solos its target. Although it takes it the entire minute, it does manage to kill the warlock, finishing up on nearly 6k DPS, which if you ask me is huge. That is a massive damage dealer, but I'm pretty sure in PvP it can still be killed in about 2 white swings, which is really annoying. I'd recommend picking up the Glyph of Fire Elemental totem, which reduces the cooldown by 40%, so you get a 3-minute cooldown, which makes it kind of closer to the normal offensive cooldowns that we have, rather than being on, you know, like a 5 or 7-minute cooldown. So the last talent on the tree is Unleashed Fury, which is basically a buff to the Unleash Elements ability. So for each weapon imbue, you'll get a different effect. So we'll start off with the Flame Tongue effect, seeing as it's the most obvious choice for an elemental shaman. Now basically what it does is it increases the lightning bolt damage done to that target by 40%. So as you could see, I was hitting 11k and I'm now hitting 14k, and when I crit for about 20k. So not a huge damage increase. I wouldn't say it's especially worth it. However, it is decent for maybe PvE, but for PvP I honestly wouldn't pick it up. There's way better things you could use. For the next example, I'll be using Frostbrand weapon, and basically what happens is you get a 50% movement increase for 4 seconds. Now this can be really useful if you're trying to kite melee or something, especially in conjunction with the Ghost Wolf glyph, where you are pretty much immune to slows, so you can quickly pop Frostbrand weapon, jump into Ghost Wolf, and you're off basically. So in the final example, I'm going to be using Rockbiter weapon. Now basically what this does is it gives you a 40% damage reduction from that target for 5 seconds. So effectively it's a shield wall on a 15-second cooldown, but it is extremely difficult to time. So this is the Warlock pretty much bursting me down without me using any defensive cooldowns, and in a second I'm going to show you when I'm using Rockbiter on cooldown, so you can kind of judge just how effective it is. So in this example I'll be using Rockbiter weapon pretty much on cooldown, so I can try and fit as many in as possible. Now as you'll be able to see, just spamming Rockbiter weapon against the target is pretty much useless, because you're not going to time it well where their burst comes unless you can kind of predict it. So here he's actually bursting me down quicker because I didn't really time Rockbiter weapon properly. So that really does emphasize the importance of timing against this, because you do only have 5 seconds and you need to use it before you get stunned or feared or whatever. So here I'm going to show you a clip of me dueling a warrior, and I'm going to time Rockbiter weapon just before shockwaves, just to show you the effect of how much damage it reduces. It's pretty much the same as Astral Shift, just on a 15-second cooldown, and if timed well can be extremely effective, especially in arenas. So I feel like for Unleash Fury to be viable, you'd need to be switching weapon imbues pretty much every other Unleash elements, which would be okay if Blizzard would remove the global cooldown on weapon imbues. However, there's actually a global cooldown on changing the weapon imbue, so you can't really macro it, which is really annoying. Otherwise this would probably be hands down the best ability. So that's covered all of the talents. I hope it's helped you to pick which one you want to use. I'm probably going to be using Elemental Blast until they buff Primal Elementalist, until they buff the Fire Elemental's health, or until they remove the cooldown on the weapon imbues. I might use Unleash Fury in a few arenas if I'm like being focused and I absolutely need that extra defense. But I'm probably going to go with Elemental Blast, just purely because the damage and the stat increase really. So yeah, I hope this guide has helped. If it has, be sure to thumbs it up and subscribe for way more guides like this and just general elemental shaman stuff. So yeah, I've been Klexx, thanks very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later.
This video is part of the Way movement, a career path in video sponsored by TGN. To learn more, visit tgn.tv.